Welcome to This Explainer. Have you ever watched a late-night political broadcast and just marveled at how it seamlessly jumps from a joke about a politician's eyebrows straight into a deadly serious debate about national security and then right back to a bizarre theme park brawl? It's wild. Today, we're objectively breaking down exactly how modern late-night political commentary blends high-stakes national security debates with completely absurd cultural satire, all to keep you locked in. To make sense of this broadcast's rapid-fire format, we're going to analyze the content thematically. So our agenda covers the targets of the monologue, defending the War Department, late-night media rivalries, mocking political missteps, and finally, brawls and cultural commentary. Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, Targets of the Monologue, and that rapid-fire opening. The show's opening monologue is really designed to quickly establish its comedic and rhetorical tone. And man, the sheer breadth of the jokes perfectly illustrates the machine gun pacing of late-night delivery. I mean, the host rapidly shifts from visual gags, like comparing Nancy Pelosi's eyebrows to a massive 250-foot Washington, D.C. arch, straight into taking jabs at Donald Trump Jr. and Hunter Biden's television prospects. And from there, it's a ridiculously quick pivot to Lindsey Graham's secretive hospital trip after some bizarre Disney bubble wand incident, an absurd take on a United Airlines drone collision, and even Oakland's attempt to stop street prostitution by just installing physical barriers. The strategy here is crystal clear. Hit every demographic, cover both sides of the aisle with rapid-fire absurdity, and keep the audience laughing and completely off balance. Moving right along to Section 2, Defending the War Department and Epic Fury. Now, from that rapid-fire comedy, the broadcast makes a really sharp turn into high-stakes national security. They focused heavily on War Secretary Pete Hegseth's congressional testimony regarding military actions in Iran. The whole catalyst for this segment was a pretty heated exchange, where Congressman Garamendi characterized a 2-month military operation as a quagmire. Now, a quagmire literally means a soft, boggy area that gives way underfoot, but practically it's an awkward, complex, or highly hazardous situation. By using that specific word, Garamendi was directly equating this operation to past conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. And wow, that single word became the absolute focal point of the panel's discussion. The host and the panel firmly defended Hegseth's rebuttal to that label. Hegseth forcefully argued against the quagmire narrative, pointing out that the military had successfully blockaded the Strait of Hormuz and decimated Iranian leadership. He actually accused his congressional critics of handing propaganda to our enemies and turning a battlefield success into a cheap political attack. The late-night panel used this exact moment to really praise Hegseth's unwavering, offensive posture during that hearing. To really drive this home, the panel mapped out a stark contrast between two completely differing philosophies of military management. On one side, you have their view of the current military approach, which they see as a strict return to lethality, readiness, meritocracy, and discipline. On the flip side is what they framed as the previous administration's approach. They characterized the Biden-era military as being heavily focused on DEI dogma, prioritizing pronouns and pride events, which they claimed resulted in lowered physical standards and massive recruitment crises. Ultimately, the broadcast utilized this comparison to argue that focusing on culture wars at home fundamentally weakens our ability to actually win wars abroad. All right, on to Section 3, late-night media rivalries, specifically Cuomo versus the host. Transitioning away from global conflict, the broadcast pivoted inward, focusing on internal media industry rivalries. And it really all started with this provocative question: what makes a toxic little troll? On his own show, Chris Cuomo had recently labeled our host exactly that, a toxic little troll who is mean and hateful and just seizes upon battering the political left. Now, rather than ignore the insult, the broadcast made it the absolute centerpiece of their next segment. This really highlights how late-night shows use rivalries as literal content. Cuomo attempted to insult the host's professionalism by saying he probably wears a hoodie. The host countered this by mocking Cuomo's much lower viewership, bringing up another media figure, Brian Stelter, and pointing out that Cuomo completely misunderstands FCC cable regulations regarding broadcast scrutiny. It's fascinating because the panel essentially turned a personal attack into a mutually beneficial content generator. They used that friction to entertain their own audience while totally dismissing their rivals as out of touch. Next up is Section 4, Mocking Political Missteps and the Erased History. Shifting gears yet again, the show targeted political missteps, putting magnifying glass on Michigan Democratic Senate candidate Mallory McMurrow. To mock her campaign strategy, the panel actually tracked her public statements over time. Get this. In 2014, McMurrow claimed to have permanently moved to Michigan, yet subsequent tweets showed her complaining about missing California weather and even talking about voting in California. Later on, she tweeted a highly unusual dream about dividing the U.S., and then in 2026, she quietly deletes thousands of these tweets to avoid campaign scrutiny. A political strategist on the panel pointed out the obvious irony here. Mass deleting tweets is literally the exact opposite of an effective cover-up. It just draws way more attention to the very things you're trying to hide. Zeroing in on one highly specific deleted tweet, the panel made a much broader argument about politicians on social media. The tweet detailed a dream where the U.S. amicably broke off into ring coasts in Middle America. The ring nominated Obama as prime minister, and everyone got $1,000. The panel argued that politicians often manufacture this kind of bizarre, supposedly relatable content purely for attention, and then fail spectacularly when trying to hide it later. The joke was, come on, no one actually dreams about highly specific public policy and prime ministerial nominations. It was framed as an inauthentic attempt to sound profound that just completely backfired. And finally, Section 5, Brawls and Cultural Commentary, focusing on the Disney incident. For its final segment, the show pivoted completely away from politics and dove headfirst into absurd cultural commentary. The panel reported the facts pretty impartially at first. A father was arrested on battery charges and banned for life from all Disney properties after allegedly assaulting the character Mirabel from the movie Encanto over a dispute about cutting in line. But rather than just report the crime and move on, the panel used this totally bizarre incident as a jumping-off point for some serious dark humor. The panel spun the whole thing by contrasting the grim reality with dark satire. Look, the reality involved criminal battery charges, a lifetime ban, and probably some major family fallout like potential divorce court. But the panel jokingly called the father an absolute genius. Why? Well, because by getting a lifetime ban, he successfully engineered the perfect excuse to never have to wait in line at a crowded, miserable theme park with his demanding kids ever again. It's a terrible trade-off for the family left behind, sure, but they took a literal crime and reframed it into a highly relatable satirical joke about the miseries of parenting and theme park vacations. And that brings us to our conclusion. We've seen exactly how this format operates, rapidly shifting from global military strategy right into media feuds, deleted tweets, and theme park brawls. So I want to leave you with this final thought. When a broadcast so fluidly pivots from the stark realities of military lethality in Iran to the absurdity of a father assaulting a Disney character, does this unique blend actually inform the audience? Or does it simply serve to entertain them while keeping them comfortably inside an ideological bubble? It's a fascinating look at how modern commentary is packaged, and definitely something to chew on the next time you tune in. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.